Welcome to the Feminine Truth Podcast with Mary Miranda, a place where you can reconnect with your wild, cyclical, and fierce truth. I am Mary Miranda, a mentor, guide, healer, and intuitive coach. I guide women on a journey of remembrance, reconnection, and embodiment of their inner feminine truth. Join me each week to tap into raw, unedited, and unfiltered sacred conversations to help women tap into their inner feminine truth to become bold, unshakable, and apologetic in who they truly are. Let's jump into today's sacred conversation. Welcome to another episode of this beautiful podcast. I'm your host, Mary Miranda. I wanted to do today a solo episode of what I wish I had known in my 20s and early 30s in life and love, kind of like a lessons learned type of podcast, because I have gone through so much in my life, so many experiences that I have overcome so many things. So I have experience and knowledge and learned so many lessons in many different areas of my life. You name it, I probably have gone through it. And I just kind of wanted to do a list of lessons learned in case someone here is listening to me and is in her 20s or early 30s and you feel like you don't have your life figured out or you are going through so many things. I just want you to know that I'm almost 40 and I wish I had known all of these things in my early 20s to save me so much time, so much heartache, so many struggles and suffering. And I know you're supposed to go through things to learn lessons and to become wiser. But I really wish I would have had like a role model or someone to teach me or tell me all these things. I wish I would have gotten more into therapy or find a therapist that's trauma informed or a life coach early in my 20s. I was so unconscious and asleep. I was just like, I don't even remember someone telling me about personal growth, about healing, about anything. I just kind of went through life day by day, not really being awakened and conscious. And my spiritual awakening came around after my Saturn return in my early 30s, like my late 20s. And that was probably my rock bottom. And from there is when I started like becoming aware of my wounding, of my childhood upbringing, how it impacts who I was being, that version of me at that time. And even today, how everything has shaped my life and who I am and what I have gone through and how I have dealt with all those things. So let's get into it because I hope that someone can take this list and be like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm going to have that in mind. And this is going to save me heartache. This is going to save me time. And knowing all these things, I really wish I would turn back the clock and go back to when I was 20. And this is 20 years later. And take my life back. And I can't take the time that I have wasted or the time or things that I have gone through. I cannot take those back because I have learned so many lessons. But there's a part of me that grieves not knowing so much and being so naive, so asleep, and so unconscious that I didn't know better. And I really wish now that I'm looking at my life in retrospect, I'm like, I wish I would have known all these things. I would have enjoyed my life more. I would have done so much more with my life. But let's get into them and let me know if any of this are applicable to you or if they resonate with you. If this is something that you needed to hear, let me know. All the show in the show notes, all the handles, how you can DM me, how you can share this in your stories with the the correct social media handle is going to be in the show notes. So let's get into the episode. The first one that I have is decenter men. Dating and love and center yourself. This is the same thing as put them off the pedestal, take them off the pedestal and put yourself up in the pedestal because you are the main character. It's kind of like the same thing. Centering yourself is going to be the best thing that you can do in your 20s and even in your 30s and your 40s. It doesn't matter what age you are, but if I had to go back in time, I wish I would have decentered men, dating, relationships, and center myself, prioritize other areas of my life, like my career, getting a better GPA, really going after my dreams. And so many things happen after college, and it's the reason why I decided not to pursue my degree anymore. But I wish I would have decentered men. I would have decentered love and dating. And I am a hopeless romantic. I've always kind of idealized and dreamed about the love of my life, kind of like the Disney influence that it has on you that is very toxic. I always had the fairy tale. Like I said, I'm a very hopeless romantic. I'm always like fantasizing, idealizing. And I think I came from that angle trying to date men, and it never worked out for me. And I went through so many shitty relationships, from toxic, narcissistic to misogynistic, that I wish somebody would have told me, decenter men, center yourself, and something about personal growth, because I had no idea. I was clueless about this. So the first one is decenter men and center yourself. Put yourself up in the pedestal and take them down. It's okay if you want to date, if you still want to have relationships, but don't make them the focus and your entire universe and the center of your universe. You are the center of your universe. You are up in the pedestal. You are the main character. They are not. So make sure your focus is not them, it's you. The second thing is, don't ever bend or compromise your non-negotiables and your list. And I think all women should have a list of what we desire in relationships and love. And our standards obviously are what we desire in our relationship, how we want to feel, how we want to be treated, what kind of partner do we want to be with, how we want to be in that relationship too. We should have a list so we can be clear and know exactly what we desire and what we want, so we don't end up in those toxic situationships and abusive relationships. So you actually date smart and with intention, because you know exactly what you want. And what happens a lot of times is that when we are not clear, or we have non-negotiables, deal breakers, a lot of times when a man comes over, he tries to make you change your beliefs, make you change your non-negotiables, and you end up breaking them. You end up like bending them, or you end up kind of like, because they're not malleable. Your non-negotiables should be requirements. Everything that you desire, that you really want, and you're like, I don't want to settle for anything less, those are requirements. Those are like reinforced. And a lot of times men that just want to play games, they want to make you change your non-negotiables so you can break them. But later on, once you leave that relationship that didn't work out, you're going to be beating yourself up for settling, for going against what you desired. So don't ever bend or compromise your non-negotiables and deal breakers. Those are so important. So make a list of exactly what are your deal breakers and what are your negotiables, what do you desire, and make sure. And there's some things that obviously there's a compromise. And I'm not talking about those things that are very just kind of like, oh, I could be okay with that. That's not going to impact my well-being. That's not going to impact my mental health. Those are things that I can compromise on, but there's some things that are really deal breakers and non-negotiable. So don't compromise on those. Number 3, it's focus on your career, finances, the major areas of your life over dating and men. This kind of goes like hand in hand with number 1. And I wish I would have made this a priority for me, focusing on my career, focusing on my finances, focusing on every single area of my life, and work on those areas over a relationship, especially in your 20s. That's still when you are trying to create really your identity. That's still when you are trying to experience life. You are trying to see what's the world after college or during college. You're still learning so much. But when you also make it a focus that your career is very important and your finances are very important and saving is very important, obviously, in every major area of your life, especially those areas that have to do with a relationship with yourself, self-love, confidence, self-mastery, emotional intelligence. Like, make sure you prioritize the relationship you have with yourself over men and dating, because you are going to be coming from a place of feeling whole and complete, and not from a place of neediness, of like validation and desperation. Number 4 is just because someone is blood or blood related, family related, doesn't mean that you need to have a relationship with them. If just think about it, if this person was not blood related to you, would they be in your life? Would you want them to be a part of your life? Would you want to be friends with them? Would you want them to be in your life? And if the answer is no, you can have strange relationships with people, even though they're blood related. You can have boundaries with those people. You can also choose not to have relationships anymore with those people. And just because someone is blood related doesn't mean they get to stay in your life, especially and they're disrespectful, if they're toxic, if they impact your mental health, if they disrespect your boundaries, if they are kind of like hostile, if they're kind of spiteful and all those things. So make sure like you are very discerning of who is in your circle. And this also goes with friends. This also goes with friends. If you have someone that is very jealous, very passive aggressive, they're spiteful, vengeful, and all those things, like do you want those people in your life? Because you are the average of the 5 people you talk to and hang out with the most. So think about that. Number 5 is people aren't going to change unless they want to change. And this is something that I always thought that I could change the men that I was with, that if they saw how wonderful and amazing I am, if I did all those things for them, if I went above and beyond and overfunction, that they will change their ways. And that is not how it works. I remember back in 2020, I think 2010 or so, I was dating someone that was my most impactful narcissistic abusive relationship. And I remember I went to the library and then I got a book because I wanted to change him because he wouldn't, I didn't understand. I didn't know it was a toxic relationship. I didn't know it was an abusive relationship at the time. I was so naive and I thought everything was my fault. And I was like, okay, if I can change him, then everything would be so good. If he just changed the way he is, everything would be so good. And mind you, he was very disrespectful. He was very flirtatious with women. There was a lot of betrayal in that relationship and a lot of emotional abuse. But I bought a book. Well, no, I rented a book from the library, sorry. And I cannot remember the title, but it was something about changing the men that you're with or the men you love. And I remember reading chapter after chapter, and it wouldn't tell me how to change him. At the end, it said that the person you needed to change was yourself. And I was so pissed. I was so pissed, but I feel like that put a little seed inside of me where my personal growth and my awakening started happening. And I realized that people aren't going to change no matter what you do, no matter how much you overfunction in that relationship, how much you give, how much you sacrifice. If that person doesn't want to change for themselves or because they love you and they truly want a healthy, committed, and conscious relationship with you, they are not going to change. So let's just save ourselves the trouble, the headache, and the suffering, and let's just move on, honestly. Number 6, it is okay if things are not going according to plan. If you are having a little life crisis, if you feel like a hot mess, like a train wreck, sometimes life throws things to redirect you towards what is meant for you. And this is something that happens to a lot of us, that it doesn't matter what age, especially in your 20s and 30s, you feel you're so behind, especially if you're comparing yourself to your friends or people around you that probably graduated around the same year from college and they're ahead of time. They bought a house, they have all this, their life put together. And you're here, you're thinking like, how am I a hot mess? I'm like in my late 20s. I'm in my early 30s, mid 30s, late 30s. And I feel like I am a hot mess. I feel like I don't have my shit figured out. I feel like I'm a train wreck. I feel I'm always having a midlife crisis or a life crisis. I feel like everything is chaos. Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath because it happens. Many of us go through these things. And I feel like a lot of times we try so hard and we beat ourselves up. And I am like, honestly, so good at beating myself up when I feel like things are not going according to plan. I'm this age and I don't have shit figured out. I am not the poster child for the American dream whatsoever. And I'm obviously divorced and I'm trying to still find my way. And I feel like I see a lot of women who are like in their 26 and they're like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm not where I'm supposed to be at this age. And I'm looking at myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm almost 40 and I feel like I am not where I'm supposed to be, where I thought I was going to be. And there's a lot of grieving that has to happen because I'm like, I wasted all these years doing things I wish I hadn't done. Yet I have all this experience and lessons, and I actually have so much experience that I can help so many women overcome those things because I have been able to overcome so many things. And sometimes it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe I could be grateful for the experiences and me going through all these messy situations, but at the same time, I can be upset about it. I can feel frustrated that I am not where I need to be. And I have to say, it's okay if things are not going according to plan. And I have to see it as this way that path was not meant for you, or that relationship was not meant for you, or that job was not meant for you. And you were or the universe is trying to redirect you to the correct path, because this is not what is going to be best for your purpose in life, for your vision for life, for what you desire or what is meant for you. And that has given me so much peace to know that when I feel like beating myself up and I'm like, I am not where I'm supposed to be. All these people around me, all these beautiful women are more ahead of me at this age. Like when I look at people from high school that I don't really talk to anyone from high school, I'm like, they're so ahead of me, but I have to remember that they don't have the upbringing that I had. They haven't gone through the things that I have gone through. And yes, I could be behind so many things, but for me, I feel like when I was in my 20s, I didn't, and I know this, I didn't love myself. Even in my teens, I didn't love myself. I didn't know my worth and value. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I didn't have a voice. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know how to speak up for myself. I didn't know so many things that I know now. And I'm like, if I have if I reconnect it with myself, and if I have this level of self-love, and if I learned all those things and I broke the cycle for my feminine lineage and like how the women in my family have been brought up, it makes me feel that it's been worth the journey, even though I am not where I'm supposed to be. The way that I love myself is what I wish I had always done for myself since I was probably 12 or 15. I wish I had known my worth and value. And now that I do, it's like, oh my God, it feels like I'm so fulfilled, even though I am not where I'm supposed to be. But the relationship with myself, it feels very fulfilling. Like it feels very happy. So if you are not where you're supposed to be, maybe have this thought that things are being redirected so you are on the correct path. And one day you're going to look back and look at the silver lining and see the lessons in that situation. But right now, take a deep breath and just know that you are not the only one that has gone through this. And this is another reason why I wanted to create this podcast, because I wanted to share my experiences, things that have helped me. And this is one of the episodes that I wanted to do. Okay, so number 7 is, if he wanted to, he would. And I understand that a lot of times people have traumas and things as the reasons why they're not able to do things that you wish, or they're not able to show off the way you wish in a relationship, or pursue you or things, then that's fine. That means that person is not for you. I fully believe that if he wanted to, he would, because that person is the right person for you. And if he can't, that means that he isn't for you. And it is up to you to stay with that person if that is breaking like a deal breaker. And don't gaslight yourself and compromise your wants and your needs and your standards and what you desire in a relationship just because you have been brainwashed to think that, oh no, maybe being so considerate and understanding and trying to bypass the fact that that person is not right for you. Because I fully believe that if he wanted to, he would. And if he has trauma and you are not okay with that, then, and he has behaviors that are really affecting your mental health, or you know that in the long run, him not doing what you like, something that you have been asking him is going to impact you, then he's not the right person for you. Okay, I fully believe that. And I know there's so many dating and relationship coaches that are trying to say, if he wanted to, he would, is bullshit. It's not true. I believe otherwise. I believe that if the person really wants to be with you and really respects you, he would be doing all the things to pursue you, to be in a relationship with, to work things, to, maybe go to therapy, maybe make things happen. I fully believe that. And if he can't, because maybe, like I said, he has trauma, something in his life is happening, then maybe you have to reassess and ask yourself, am I willing to deal with this? Am I willing to be with this person, knowing that he's never going to show up the way that I wish? And that's when you have to make the choice. But for me, it's like, I am not going to jeopardize my sanity, my peace, my mental health, and because I'm so understanding and I'm so considerate, because I know a lot of trauma. I know how people have coping mechanisms that have helped them stay safe, and they develop these toxic behaviors. And for me, it's like, no, that's not going to fly with me, because I am not going to jeopardize my well-being for no man or for no one. Okay, number 8 is you are easily replaceable at work. And I do believe in the bare minimum and acting according to your wage and your pay rate. And I also believe, don't overdo it, don't over deliver, don't over function, and don't burn yourself out at a company that can easily let you go tomorrow and replace you. Don't go above and beyond your pay grade. And the reason why I say this is because I burned myself out at a company that I was never hired directly. They kept me in contracts for 5 years through a staffing agency. And I really wanted to be on board with this company. And I started as data entry, and I ended up being kind of like a systems analyst, like a test manager. I managed the testing phase of a project. So I do have experience of that. I have a strong IT background because of this job. And I worked myself up, and they just threw me in the trenches. They're like, oh, we want you to create this test plan and test scenarios and test scripts and all these things. And I'm like, what is that? And they didn't even give me training. I had to honestly spend so many days all day long at work, and I would get there so early and I would leave like around 9 p.m. just on Google, trying to find out how to make a test plan, how to create test scripts, how to do this, because they didn't even teach me. They just threw me in the trenches, and I proved them that I was great. I was great at my job. And one day they just let me go. They just replaced me with someone overseas, and they just let me go. And I was left like not understanding why. And there was also this other incident at a different job where there was sexual harassment, and it was a hostile, toxic work environment. So they didn't have HR. And it was really hard for me to bring it up, because I didn't feel safe bringing it up to my then male supervisor. And the company owner was extremely misogynistic, and it just didn't feel safe bringing it up to them. So once they switched me to a female supervisor, then I finally brought it up after 8 months, but I was already burnt out. I had many panic attacks, anxiety, my mental health was not okay. And it got to the point that I couldn't be there anymore, because he was sitting in the cubicle across from me, that to this day I still get triggered if somebody sits in the cubicle next to me. And I changed the way that I dressed. I changed so many things because I felt so objectified. I didn't want to feel and look beautiful at that workplace, because it just didn't feel safe. And anyway, so one day I just couldn't take it anymore. I had a bad panic attack on my way to work. I had to pull over the road in the ramp off the road. And I ended up just saying, okay, you know what? I had already typed my resignation letter months before that. And that day is like, I have to do that. I have to pull the trigger. And I had no plan ahead. I had no other job lined up. I just knew that if I stay there, my health was going to go downhill. And I went up to 144 pounds too, a lot of emotional eating. It was also the year that I was getting divorced. So many factors happened, but I resigned from that job and I put in my resignation letter on a Monday when I worked from home that day because I had made accommodations that I couldn't be in the office the days that that guy was in the office. Mind you, this was a married man too, by the way. So the next day, it was a Tuesday. I showed up to work like nothing happened, trying to finish up my 2 weeks and all those things. They called me in the office, and the owner called me in the office with my supervisor, and they just completely told me that today was my last day, and they're like, "Oh, do you have any company property?" I was like, "No, just my laptop." So literally, my supervisor, who was my friend before this, she stands behind me in my cubicle, like watching me while I'm trying to return the company property, the laptop. And I'm like, I didn't even have a chance to see if I had any documents. So that's another thing. Don't store any of your personal documents in the work laptop or anything like that, because I did that mistake. And I didn't even have a lot because I had so much anxiety that she was behind me and I didn't really understand because this has never happened to me. And she literally was just there. I felt so harassed. I felt so like oppressed. Like I felt like I couldn't like do anything. And I just like quickly just like shut down the computer and gave it to her. I didn't even have a chance to look that over or anything. And then she was just standing there the whole time. That was like close to like 10, 15 minutes while I was gathering my things because I wasn't even ready. I didn't think they were going to let me go like that. I was like, okay, I get my 2 weeks. So that's what I meant, 2 weeks. And she walked me out the door. I didn't even have a chance to say goodbye to anyone. They just walked me out the door as if I had been the one doing the sexual harassment, as if I had been the one that had done something wrong in that company. So they completely just threw me. And then it just felt so uncalled for. I felt so devalued. I felt like, yeah, they probably were angry that I finally decided to leave the company, but it was a very toxic environment. And thankfully, I am not the only one that thinks that. And that person that was my supervisor, and she walked me out the door. She said, "Oh, sorry, I had to dissociate from my feelings." And she had this like emotionless demeanor to her. And I was like, I thought you were my friend, because I would go and talk to her about so many things. And she knew about the sexual harassment when I told her, and she didn't do anything for a month until I said, "Can we please talk to the owner about the sexual harassment? I want to make a report." And there was no HR in the company, but also HR is not your best friend, just so you know. But I learned that I will never again over deliver at a job where I'm devalued, where I am not treated correctly, that is hostile. And from just everything, I just learned that you are easily replaceable. They can let you go today and they don't really care about you. They don't really care about your mental health. They don't really care about anything that has to do with your life. And I feel like we should treat them. It sucks the way that they treat us, but that's one big lesson that I learned about the job. So there's a lot of people that want to climb up the ladder, but you know what? It's your choice. If you want to go above and beyond, if you want to prove yourself and all of that, by all means, go and do that, but don't burn yourself out. Number 9 is social media scrolling addiction is real and deeply impacts your well-being, your goals, your life, and your mental well-being. It just also puts you in a place of freeze, of feeling paralyzed, feeling bad about your life. And it just completely changes your brain chemistry too. So trust me, I suffer from this and it's still been a struggle. And also because I work on my phone a lot because of my podcast, because of my content creation. So I know that it's really hard to set boundaries, but I'm working on it. We're all gotta work on this, on setting boundaries with ourselves and our phones, because sometimes we can have a toxic relationship with our phones. Number 10 is not everything you see on social media is real. We all struggle. We all go through things. that we don't really post anything about. So just because you see someone's best pictures, best videos, the happy moments and everything doesn't mean that they have it all figured out and they're not struggling. A lot of times, maybe that's true. Maybe a lot of times they have it figured out. Maybe a lot of times some creators are actually don't have struggles, their mental health is perfect, their life is amazing. Maybe, yeah, but most of the time you only see a little snippet of their lives, a little moment, a 30-second moment, 10-second moment, 1 minute of their lives. And a lot of times it's going to be all positive, all happiness, the best pictures where they look amazing, but you don't really get the behind the scenes. You don't really get the struggles, the crying, everything a lot of people go through in our daily basis. If I was to blog or if I was to post everything that I go through in my life, like it would be a shit show. And I don't want to post a lot. I am also very private in so many things in my life. And I noticed that when people share so much, I only share things that I have struggled with, overcome, and can help someone or can bring value to someone. That's what I actually feel that I do. Tell me if I don't, honestly. But I feel like, oh, you know what? If I went through that shitty situation, even though it's a little embarrassing to share, but I learned something, I moved from that, I overcame that situation or that relationship, and I can teach women how leave that relationship, how to heal from that, how to move on and navigate that better, then I'm going to share the lessons learned and how to do it. That's the angle I come from. But if I'm just here sharing my life, if I'm just like giving you drama, it's going to feed you dopamine and it's going to want you to stick around because you like chaos. You want to bond with someone because of your dopamine. You're seeking dopamine, you're seeking the thrill, you're seeking the drama. So this is why a lot of people like gossip, like following creators that share a lot of drama in their lives, a lot of chaos, their daily struggles and everything, just because it gives you this sense of connection. But it's all like influencing drama, it's all influencing this roller coaster chaos of emotions, and it's all influencing the dopamine hit that you're seeking. And this is also why we scroll, because we want to get the hit, we want to get our fix. And a lot of times, like if you follow a lot of creators that share a lot of their dramas and they seem to always be going through the trenches and they share everything openly, even though before they have healed it, they just like spill it out and they haven't done the work to step back and heal from that situation and come from this place of empowerment of, hey, I've gone through this, I've overcome it, that no longer happens to me. I want to share with you what I learned and I want to bring value so it doesn't happen to you. It's from a different angle. But I realized that when you connect with people that only complain, gossip, are on their victim mentality, it's all about like telling you every single struggle they go through daily, it's going to keep you in this really transactional connection that is on chaos, that is in dopamine. So just reassess who you follow. And like I said, not everything that you see on social media, it's real. Like if they seem to have it all together, a lot of times maybe they don't. So question everything and don't compare yourself, because you don't know the behind the scenes. You don't know if probably the happy couple that looks so in love, they probably got in a huge fight a few minutes before that post or whatever, you know? So take everything as a grain of salt. Number 11, many men weaponize incompetence and marriage benefits men more than women. And this is a hot take. And I realized that a lot of people who are married, especially who have children, there's a lot of single mothers who are married, who are the ones doing all the work, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom, or if you have a job and you still have to come home and you still have to take care of the house, take care of the kids, cook, clean, and do all the things because your husband doesn't do anything. That's weaponizing competence. If the husband is saying, or the person you are with is saying that he babysits your kids, versus saying that, hey, this is also part of my responsibility to help you raise our children. So I'm going to help you take care of the children. I'm going to help you take care of the house too. But a lot of men weaponize incompetence, and a lot of men benefit from marriage more than women just because they are so used to women doing it all and sacrificing all. So we're not about that life. At least I am not. It's okay if you want to marry, you want to have kids, but make sure that the person you are marrying also is going to help you with house chores. It's also going to knows how to cook, knows how to clean, knows how to take care of your children, and knows like the ins and outs. Because if you think about it, a lot of people that are married, the woman is the one that knows the birthdays, when the doctor appointments, the phone numbers. She's like the honestly like one stop for everything. She's the secretary, she's the doctor, she's the cook, she's the cleaner, she is everything. And I feel like it's so unfair. So make sure when you're choosing a partner, you're choosing someone that wants a partnership, not someone where you have a one-sided relationship and all the mental and emotional load is on you. Number 12, women are more than mothers and wives. This goes hand in hand with the last one. They also have their own needs, their own wants, their own desires, their own dreams, their own autonomy. And I find that a lot of times when women start obviously having babies in a family, that becomes their priority and they forget about themselves. And I understand that a lot of times it's impossible not to, because you have to raise your children. They depend on you. You are there's on survival because of you, you know? And I just feel like for me it's so important, because the women that I've seen around me, the women that I've seen on social media too, they lost themselves. They don't have time to even shower. They don't have time to also work on their dreams and their goals and have their own autonomy anymore. And a lot of times, they're just kind of like, oh, I'm just a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a mom. No, you're also a woman who has autonomy still, even though you're married and have children. You also have desires, wants. Maybe you have a goal that it's not necessarily linked to your marriage or your kids. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to do something with your life, go back to school. And I just feel like so sad that a lot of women don't get that opportunity. And I come from a lineage, obviously, where women are the ones that are housewives, raise children, stay at home, cook, clean, do all the thing, while the man goes out and work and he only brings a paycheck, but he doesn't really help raise the children, you know? And the woman loses herself. All she is a mother and a wife. And if that's what you want, please don't take this the wrong way. I'm happy for you. That's your choice. But I still see the frustration and the unhappiness of women who choose to just be mothers and wives. And I just want to know if you are happy, if you are working on yourself too, because a lot of times when there is no rite of passage between mating and mother, and you just go into motherhood, that's kind of like grieving the woman that you used to be when you were single, when you didn't have children. This is honestly a body, mind, and soul complete reawakening. When you become a mother, you become someone else. And I feel like a lot of women don't have support in that transition, how to still be your own person while you're a mother and a wife. So make sure if you need support with that, you find the correct person, therapy, but don't lose yourself. If you need support, join Facebook groups that are support for mothers. Build a community, because it is so important to have support as a woman. And a lot of my female friends are married and have children, so I don't really have a lot of friends that are around me that are single by choice, child free like me. And it's really hard sometimes to see them, the struggling, the suffering. And it is the impotence that I feel, because I cannot help them, because I chose something different for my life. And also my path led me to where I am today. But find the support. I hope you find the support that you need. And number 13, you can't be helping everyone, rescuing people, or saving people. You are not responsible for others' choices and life decisions. You can save others at your own detriment, or if it impacts your well-being. You cannot be doing that. And this is something that You are not responsible for another person's emotions or how they choose to react and cope and navigate a situation that it's also part of you, like for example, a divorce or a relationship. You are not responsible for the other person's emotions and how they choose to deal with the situation. You are only responsible for your own. And don't let anyone blame you and make you feel like it's your fault. They are where they are, or their mental health is where it is. And I understand that a lot of times their behaviors can impact you, but you are responsible for your own emotions and how you react. And if you need help learning how to navigate or have the tools to navigate things better, not react emotionally, not be passive aggressive when you get triggered, not to lash out. If you need help, find the support for that. I do have one-on-one coaching available for that, but you are not responsible for another person's reaction to things, and they are not responsible for yours either. And this is something that takes a lot of accountability and ownership to realize that I am responsible for me. If I get triggered, if I hate something that someone is doing and is impacting me, a lot of times I get so mad, but I'm also responsible for doing the work to alchemize those emotions or to move through those emotions. So I'm no longer triggered, angry, have rage, or feel anxious, And I have a lot of tools in my toolbox that I use every single day when I get triggered. And as much as I want to put the blame on another person, I can acknowledge that they did something, and a lot of times it's spiteful. It's intentional what they do. And I say, okay, like how do I choose to move through this? How do I want to move through this? And that's when things change, because it's like when you take your power back. Number 14 is people pleasing is not healthy. It makes you build resentment toward others, and it makes you like very manipulative if you think about it. And also it shows that you don't have boundaries with yourself and others. You don't really do that because you're afraid that the person is not going to like you, the person is going to hate you. Abandonment, rejection, everything comes into play with people pleasing. But people pleasing is not healthy. It's very manipulative because you are trying to for those people to see you a certain way and manipulate the situation so you are not abandoned, you are not rejected. But there's also this part that you don't have good boundaries with yourself and you don't have boundaries with the others, and that's the reason why it leads to resentment. So make sure people pleasing, if you need help with that, you find the help, because that is also rooted in codependency. That is also rooted in not being afraid of setting boundaries, because that person is going to abandon you, reject you, it's not going to love you anymore, because maybe that's happened before in the past, in childhood, and you're afraid the same thing is going to happen. For me, it's always been the silent treatment. When I set a boundary, that person is not going to love me anymore, the person is not going to like me, and oh my gosh, like I can't, so I have to say yes. But then saying yes to them is saying no to you, and that's going to impact the relationship you have with yourself, and you are your own priority. So make sure you have boundaries with yourself, and boundaries with others is just how you are choosing for them to interact with you and have a relationship with you. And they should be non-negotiable, honestly, especially if they're impacting your health and your well-being and your mental health. Okay, number 15, that ex that treated you bad and disrespected you, cheated on you, ghosted you, abandoned you, was not a good person to you. He's not the one. That ex that continuously does things to make you feel bad intentionally or unintentionally. He's constantly liking other girls' Instagram pictures, is constantly disrespecting you. He is not the one. That person that ended things with you, he is not the one. Make sure you don't focus on that. And this is another thing why I don't believe in manifesting a specific person. And when people usually do that is because they want to manifest an ex back, just because that person, if that ended, is because that relationship is not supposed to be with you. And why are you trying to manifest someone that didn't treat you well, that disrespected you, that was not loyal to you? Whether it was like real affairs, micro affairs, or emotional cheating, which is a micro affair, I guess. Um, that person is not for you. If he ghosted you, he is not the one. He is not for you. If he just broke things up with you, like he is not the one. So move on and find someone that is it's more aligned with you. For me, it's like the ex that hard launched 2 women after he ghosted me for 48 hours within a few months when I had COVID, and he's not the one for me. And for the longest time, I was like, oh my gosh, like that person, if the relationship was great, but I'm like, wait, he ghosted me for 48 hours when I had COVID and I was in a different state. And we broke, obviously I ended things because I was like, I'm not going to deal with I'm not going to deal with ghosting. I'm not going to deal with silent treatment and you not communicating with me when I was in a situation where I needed emotional support and I needed you as my partner. And after a few months, I realized that he was already in a full blown relationship and he's had 2 relationships within a year and hard launches. And yes, I know I checked and it's like, you know what? He's not the one. He's not the one. And looking at their social media, it's not going to make it any different. He's not the one. You need to end that illusion and idealization of what it was because it never was. He was never honest with you, maybe. So he's not the one. And that kind of helped me move on from that. And thankfully, right now, I am not emotionally attached to anyone. I don't have to heal from any man or anything. I'm completely happy. So yeah, just so you know, he is not that person, that man that is making you cry. He's not the one for you. Okay, number 16, it's okay to miss someone and choose yourself because you deserve better. You can't choose feelings over self-respect. And this is so important to know because a lot of times we stay because we love so much. We cannot be without that person, but that person is disrespecting you. That person is like, it's like flirting with other women, like, they're like women on Instagram, following all these beautiful models or hoochie mamas, whatever you want to call them on Instagram. And it's okay if you break up with them because you're choosing yourself. Obviously, it's more than okay, but it's okay if you miss them, even though you're breaking up with them, even though you know you deserve better and you're walking away because you're respecting yourself enough to say, I'm not going to put up with that treatment. I'm no longer putting up with that behavior. I've already told him to stop and he's not stopping. So as much as I feel like I love this person, as much as I thought he was going to be the one for me, I rather miss that person than to stay where I am not being respected. I would rather miss him and miss the fact that he's no longer going to be in my life, the future dreams and everything, over dealing with his disrespect. I choose myself and I am not going to allow any disrespect. Number 17, don't date gym bros or gym guys if you guys go to the same gym at the same time. Don't do this mistake because if things don't work out, you are going to have to change gyms. Or are you going to be able to work out when he is there, especially if you met and you guys go at the same time? How is that going to be? Because I made this mistake. I've never dated someone that I met at the gym, and I made this mistake that I thought I met someone in the wild, and it kind of happened progressively. After 3 times he attempted to get my attention, he got my attention because a machine was broken. So then I said something about how come you work out without headphones? And from there I said something like, I could never because I have anxiety. So whatever, I said goodbye. I said, thank you for letting me know the machine's broken. And he approaches me with something like, hey, I also have anxiety and I take this supplement and I also have got issues. And I was like, oh my God, can you tell me what the supplements are? And he didn't have his phone with me. And then I was like, okay, give me your phone number and I'll text you so you can tell me the supplements, which that's exactly what I did. And he did send me the supplements. Later on, obviously, he started kind of like liking me. I didn't know he liked me until he's like, oh, let's go for sushi. And I thought it was just like a friend type of thing until after the sushi, he starts telling me like, he kind of starts hinting that he likes me. And I'm like, wait, you like me? I'm like, I didn't know that was a date. I thought we were just kind of getting to know each other. And later on, he started making a point to tell everyone that I'm the one that asked for his number. I'm like, well, yeah, I asked for your number because one, you didn't have your phone. And two, I wanted the supplements, which honestly, to this day, I still take the supplements, which have really significantly helped with my gut issues, IBS, bloating. So thank you for that. That's the only positive thing he attributed. But things went south and things didn't work out. He was the most misogynistic, sexist, racist, horrible human being I have ever met in my life. And I never dated him officially. We're still in the talking stages. But regardless, I ended up feeling so like not safe because we would go to the gym at the same time. And I ended up having to leave the gym. And that gym was a 24/7 gym. And I stayed 2 months after I ended things with him. I stayed 2 more months because I couldn't find a gym. And I regretted even talking to him or anything because I'm like, great, now I have to leave the gym. Now I have to find another gym just because I don't want to be around him because he was a horrible person. So don't make that mistake. But obviously, not every man is the same. Maybe you end up in good terms and you guys have no issue working out and being in each other's presence. Then that's amazing. This didn't happen because of who this man was. So I learned my lesson. Never date someone you go to the gym with. Number 18, men who act, those men like the red pill podcasting bros type of energy, the ones that say they're the alpha male gym gorillas. That complex, honestly, I feel like it's a disorder. They're full of insecurities, low self-esteem, and truly hate themselves. So they project everything they feel in the way they treat women. So all these men that you listen to or hear or who are very misogynistic, and this is what this guy at the gym was, everything was a projection of how he truly felt about himself. Him hating women and being misogynistic, racist. I've never experienced someone being racist and sexist and telling me that I finally looked like a real woman because I gained 6 pounds and I was like about 137 with those 6 extra pounds. And him telling me that I finally look like a real Latina because I had a booty. I finally had a booty. And I've never been so objectified that bad. And for me, it was all an insecurity and how he felt about himself and his body because he was not in shape. Everything was a facade. I thought he looked in shape, but he was always like wearing so many layers of clothes and leggings on top of shorts and a hoodie and a sweater and all these things. So I was like, oh my God, this man must be huge and in shape. Not at all. Not at all. So everything was a projection. And I started seeing that, like how he was always projecting and always the way he talked about everyone. And I realized, I'm like, oh my God, these men who think they're the alpha male, who are like the red pill bros, who know too much, who have this energy of arrogance, of being condescending, of their ego is so high, they think they're all that. They're full of insecurities, low self-esteem, and truly hate themselves. And everything is a projection of how they feel about themselves. So they're projecting it on someone else. Number 19 is upon the first red flag, walk away, save yourself the heartbreak, stress, and drama. Don't stay longer just because you're so understanding and considerate, because that is a huge red flag that we have as women. Honestly, it can be like an amazing quality within us that we're understanding and compassionate and considerate. But when it comes to red flags, we cannot be understanding of that. We cannot be considerate of that. We can have compassion, but say, you know what, that's not for me. I'm going to walk away and save myself the sanity, the mental health, the heartbreak, and the drama and the stress that that's going to bring into my life. And I'm going to walk away because I know that's a non-negotiable. So make sure you also know the red flags, and which are the deal breakers in someone. Number 20, take care of your gut health because it impacts your overall health, mental health, and nervous system. If your gut health is not well and you have a lot of inflammation or a lot of bloating, it's going to impact your mental health because there's a bi-directional communication between your gut and the brain. And if it's not sending the correct signals, and if it's not working properly, it's going to impact your mental health, especially if you're more prone to depression, anxiety, ADHD, and just mental health issues like I am. It's going to impact you. This is why I eat very clean. I eat the way that I eat, and I do have food sensitivities. So my nutrition is very specific because I know the moment I eat gluten or dairy or like junk food, I know it's going to wreck my gut health, and I know that's going to impact my mental health, and I'm going to be more anxious, more irritable, more moody, more depressed, and it's just going to go chaos. And I still have those days that I'm like, oh my God. And even when I'm more stressed, obviously, I'm more prone to have gut issues because that's a whole nervous system type of issue. But make sure you're taking care of your gut health. Make sure you're taking care of your well-being because it really impacts.
Thank you so much for being part of this conversation on the Feminine Truth Podcast. This podcast is for you, for me, for us, for the Feminine Collective. Thank you for spending your time and energy with us. I so appreciate it. Please, it would mean so much if you could share this in your Instagram stories, in your Facebook stories, or everywhere, so this message gets spread and others can find this podcast and this conversation. And if you feel like someone needs to hear this message, please share with them. I would be so grateful for you, and let us know your thoughts, how this has helped you, how you connected with this topic, or how this has felt in your body. And lastly, if you feel the pull, I would be immensely grateful if you could take the time to leave a review so more people can find my podcast and this conversation. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you on the next episode.